Welcome back to our journey through the Proverb Devotionals, and we're making our next stop in Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25, which reads this: Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Obviously, we get the bigger picture that is pretty clear to us in this text that trusting in God is where the safest life is, where the best life is, and it is His approval. It is his direction. It is his hand that we are seeking after. And as long as we have him, we're winning. We're fine. We're okay. And we're taking the right steps necessary to grow closer to where he desires us to be. But here's what's interesting about this text that I think actually might make this devotional rather quicker in some instances, is that the fear of man typically comes from places of comparison, fear of missing out, envy, pride, hatred, even haste and impatience, fear of what others will think, which also causes us not to embrace the uniqueness that we have. All of these things that play a role in what causes one to fear man, fear humans, fear other people, so much so that we will be willing to abandon what God is calling us to for the sake of not engaging with other people, not engaging in them negatively, not triggering other people, not challenging other people. We just want to be on everybody's good side. Here's the problem with such an approach: you and I cannot please everybody. So, because I can't please everybody, it is that much more clearer to me that it is better to stand on the side of truth, to stand on the side of a firm foundation, to stand with Jesus, who is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore, than to stand on sinking sand of always trying to please other people. That typically comes from an identity crisis where we aren't sure who we are, whose we are. So when we choose to put our trust in God, what happens is we actually gain freedom. And some people may look at this and say, well, I trusted God, I believe in Jesus, and now all of a sudden I just have all these restrictions on me. I can't go and can't do, can't have and can't be. And so now it just feels like I'm limited. One, you're not alone. So many people have considered the same thing. Two, it's important to consider the perspective that we're looking at this from, whether it's from a lens of a finite, limited perspective or the lens of an infinite/eternal perspective. And with the finite, we definitely have a tendency to look at what things are right now and forego the future, forego the benefits that what we're doing now can have on us in the future. We lose sight of what really matters in the long run. And it causes that frustration. It causes that limited perspective because we always feel like we're in loss. Whereas in the infinite perspective, we're looking at things from an eternal viewpoint. What do things look like years down the line? What does my life look like later down the line by me doing the right things now? Not just doing the right things and abstaining from the wrong things, but ultimately becoming the right person that is first and foremost cultivated and founded on the truth that is Jesus Christ. So when I look at it from that perspective and I care more about what God thinks, less about what man and peers think of me, I'm actually able to find freedom in where I am, freedom in who I'm called to be, freedom in where I'm going, because I'm no longer shackled by trying to impress other people. And I'm no longer concerned so much about what others may say of me as I'm being obedient to my Heavenly Father. And what does this freedom kind of look like? Let me paint the picture. This freedom simply says, I'm going to go where you lead me, Lord, despite my own fears. So regardless of what I feel, how I feel, or what I may want, I am going to make the decision to follow after Christ and remaining faithful in those spaces, looking to honor God in all things. And this can be challenging because a part of trusting God is alleviating not just the things that we've always thought we would have, but even the things that we may want right now. Giving up timetables, giving up all these different positions and claims that we've held on to, giving up the idea of where we thought we would be by now, the life that we thought we would have already established. When we choose to trust God, we trust his will, his timing over our own hearts and over our own wills. And we're choosing to be wherever his hand is. And sometimes, especially in the beginning stages of us establishing such a relationship and foundation with God, trusting God can simply look like admitting your fears along with your reservations and saying, I'm still going to do what you set in front of me to do. It looks scary. It looks intimidating. It doesn't look like much is going to come out of it. What I see isn't as promising. But when I remember and recall to mind the person who has called me to such a space, I have an opportunity to trust God with what's in front of me, with what's ahead of me. And even though it looks scary, I can put my hand in his hand and still take the steps one day at a time, one step at a time, honoring him in the process. So what is it that God is putting on your heart to do? What is it that God is potentially calling you to? And what have been your reservations that have kept you from not only embracing where God is leading you to, but actually beginning to move in it? Because if we're being honest, if all of these things could happen without people being involved in where we are, knowing what we're doing, and being able to comment on everything we have going on, it's more than likely that we wouldn't be so caught up in what others think of us. We would actually be willing to step into that space. And even if it's a rejection, even if it doesn't work out the first time, we're able to just continue going because, hey, nobody was around, nobody knows. It's just us in this encounter. So when we take that into consideration and just zoom out on what is really keeping us from walking into what God has placed in front of us, a lot of times it does come from people pleasing and comparison and wanting others to think the best of us. When in all actuality, when we prioritize what God thinks of us, getting into his presence, getting into his face, getting into his word as a part of a massive rhythm in our lives, we will look to not only honor God in everything we do, but seek and listen for God on the things that we need to hear to continue moving towards where he needs us to be, where he desires us to be, rather, and not be so caught up on what others are thinking or saying of us. Truth is, they didn't call you. And because they didn't call you, they can't cancel you. And this can't be about you ridding of the fear and I'm waiting for my fear to go away and for me to step into this space and be faithful to what God is putting in front of me or challenging me to step into. If I'm being honest, I don't ever know if that fear will ever go away for you. What I do know is that you have an opportunity to still do it afraid, step into it afraid. And the more that you continue to encounter it with your fears, with your reservations, with your doubts, and still acting on it and being faithful to it, I do believe that your fears can continue to cease and your confidence in God and confidence in where he has you can continue to grow, being able to overcome those fears by keeping your hand in his hand. And when I decide to really trust God, freedom has a whole nother move to it, ring to it, and is a freedom that allows you to identify faith as something greater than your feelings. So I appreciate you guys so much for tuning into this devotional. If you like this kind of content and you want to hear more, subscribe, like this video, share with a friend who could benefit from hearing a devotional such as this. And until our next conversation, be easy and be breezy, my friend. Peace. Yo, listen, I've got something amazing in the works for you available right now. If you're somebody who's looking to make this year your best year yet at diving into your faith and allowing it to become more applicable in your life. Never known where to start. You've always been confused. It feels overwhelming. Maybe you feel you don't have time. You don't know how to apply the Bible into your life. You have so many questions and thoughts as to what makes sense. How does it make sense? Don't worry. Your boy's got you covered with the Faith Factory. Click the link down in the description below. And in this Google document, you will find a plethora of resources that are at your disposal for you to be able to grow in your faith. I'm talking Bible plans, content creators to follow and subscribe to that better will enrich your faith, resources, links, books, all of that good stuff, even worship playlists, something to jam out to as you progress through your day. I really think this can be the start of something good for you and the lives around you by locking in and making sure that this year is your best year spiritually, therefore making it your best year ever. Don't forget to click the link in the description and go be great.